All right. Eddie Hearn's out there spinning some stories. Says that Anthony Joshua's stock has gone up since he got knocked down 4 times and quit against the ropes with his mouthpiece spat out against Andy Ruiz. And also that Andy Ruiz has to have that rematch, however Eddie Hearn says. Let's talk about that in this video. All right. Welcome back to the channel, subscribers. If you are not subscribed, subscribe. Also, thank you so much to the Patreons, the new patrons and my old patrons on the Patreon page, Finance, Business, and Politics. And also, thank you so much to everybody that supports the Super Chat and supports it through Venmo, supports it through PayPal. You guys are the reason that the channel prospers and we're able to do what we does. Now, you know, this has been a conversation that's been going on for several years, since 2017, since Eddie Hearn popped onto the American scene. He actually popped on to the American scene a little bit earlier, but his mouth, once he got a little courage after Anthony Joshua won a lot of ego. Was it a little courage or a lot of ego? Not quite sure. Whatever it is, he started talking a lot after AJ won the fight against Vladimir Klitschko. That all came to a crashing halt in New York City, Madison Square Garden, where pre-sale ticket records, whatever that means, were broken in the American debut of Anthony Joshua against Andy Ruiz, where Andy Ruiz pistol whipped that boy and took all his belts. All the belts is gone. So now, for some reason that I don't understand, Eddie Hearn is pushing for the rematch to take place between Anthony Joshua and Andy Ruiz right away, despite the fact that a whole bunch of people that know the subject very well are saying, do not do it. Get your head right. What kind of heart? You got some heart? That's what I think Mike Tyson asked AJ, man, you got some effing heart? And if your mind ain't right, you get back up in there, it's going to happen again. Anyway, Andy Ruiz is saying that the fight can't take place in the UK. He ain't going to the UK. He's the A side. Eddie Hearn says in an interview with IFL TV, you can go check it out in IFL TV, and this part of it is in the very beginning of the video, so you don't have to go through the hour-and-a-half long interview that IFL conducted with Eddie Hearn. Just the first 7 minutes or so, I think, talks about this. He talked about how AJ stock, he mentions that AJ's stock has actually went up as a result of Andy Ruiz knocking out Anthony Joshua. Excuse me, he didn't knock him out. I have to stay truthful. Every time I say that he knocked him out, I get corrected by people in the comment section. Okay, you're right. Andy Ruiz did not knock out Anthony Joshua. Andy Ruiz knocked Anthony Joshua down 4 times, and Anthony Joshua quit up against the rope after he spat his mouthpiece out and clearly did not want no more of that smoke. Okay, I stand corrected in the comment section. That said, Eddie Hearn believes that his stock has gone up, which makes me think about it. I'm like, okay, you got to assume that the guy is telling the truth, that he believes what he says. With most people, with Eddie Hearn, that's not a safe assumption, but you know, I do it just to see what reasons could there be for that. If his stock has gone up, and I think there is more interest in Anthony Joshua in the United States. I believe that. I honestly believe that there's more interest in an Anthony Joshua fight than there was before. But I think the interest is, will Andy Ruiz knock him out again? Was this a fluke? Was this something that was just a one-off? Or was he really just a hype job? I think that's the interest. So in a way, I don't know if that's Anthony Joshua's stock that has gone up, but I do think it's reasonable to say that the fight between Andy Ruiz and Anthony Joshua is actually a bigger fight than the first one was. But again, I don't think that the first fight was a very big fight. I don't think that there was a lot of interest in that fight for fight fans in the United States. Maybe in the UK there was, but not in the United States. And actually in the UK, it didn't seem like there was as much interest in the fight, because I think it did somewhere around 440,000 pay-per-views in the same time slot, by the way, in the same time slot that Floyd Mayweather Jr. versus Manny Pacquiao did 1 million pay-per-views. In the same time slot that Floyd Mayweather Jr. versus Conor McGregor, according to the same source, did over 800,000 pay-per-views. Less than Ricky Hatton versus Manny Pacquiao in that same time slot. Less than Ricky Hatton versus Floyd Mayweather Jr. in that same time slot. You could say that that's Andy Ruiz, but then it's Andy Ruiz that limited the interest in the UK. But if Anthony Joshua is the biggest superstar that there's ever been in the UK, then you would think those numbers would be a little bit closer. But anyway, that's just my speculation. That's just my speculation. But what I know for sure in the United States was it wasn't a big deal to anybody in the United States. Most of the crowd, I know this from the people that went to the fight, most of the crowd were from the UK. Because when they were going into the fight, every other person that they were talking to or listening to talk to had British accents. Or if people were in Times Square and walking around Manhattan, they were like, there's just a lot of people with British accents there at that time. So based on those admittedly non-scientific studies, it just seemed like there were a lot of well-off people from the UK that bought tickets probably at discount rates, flew over to the United States to have a party. But in this next fight with Andy Ruiz, I think that scenario is going to be different. I believe that it's going to be a big fight. If it's in the United States, I think in the United States, it's a big fight. I think it's something where Andy Ruiz's fan base are going to be pouring out major to support their guy. And as we've been told so many times that the Mexican fan base is, and I'm going to say this with a little tongue in cheek, right? My tongue, just imagine my tongue is planted in my cheek when I say this, that they're the most important and significant fan base in boxing by far. And there's nobody in the United States that does any numbers of any significance in boxing without their support, which is absolutely positively not true, but it's still the line that people throw out there. But I will not deny this, that if the Mexican fan base, and I'm not saying Spanish-speaking Latinos fan base, I'm gonna call it like it is. If the Mexican fan base get behind Andy Ruiz and they support that fight's gonna be huge. The same way as if a black fan base gets behind a fighter 100%, that it's gonna be a huge fight. It can't be anything but that, because there's 45 million black people in America, and Mexicans have not quite as many Mexicans as black people in America, but they got a whole country right south of Texas, and actually used to be Texas, Arizona, and a good bit of California. So we'll see what happens with this. I do agree with Eddie Hearn that this fight is bigger than the last one. I don't believe Eddie Hearn when Eddie Hearn says that the reason that this thing hasn't been announced is because there's multiple venues that are making proposals at him, and it's just taking more time because we've got so many more opportunities. I don't buy that. I don't buy it, because there's somebody named DAZN there. And DAZN, who Eddie works for, is going to want that fight in the United States, because that's where they would get the most subscribers for. And there might be a battle between Sky Sports, who's going to want that fight in the UK so that they can put it on pay-per-view in the UK and get some of their money back that they invested before Matchroom jumped ship and tried to come over to the United States. Remember, Matchroom is the one that invested the money and put all that press behind Anthony Joshua. So maybe there's some battles going on between DAZN in the US and Sky Sports in the UK. But there's also that guy named Andy Ruiz. And I'm not gonna belabor the point in this video, like I've done in several other videos. Go to the other videos. But Eddie Hearn, no matter what he says, can't force Andy Ruiz to take that fight and to fight over there in the UK. And if he doesn't, Eddie Hearn, they lose everything. So they can talk about going to court, but they don't want to go to court. That's the last thing that they want to do, is to have stuff stuck, spending a ton of money in litigation while the belts go bye-bye. Because if they won, what would they get? All they would get is a settlement out. They would get a settlement or some punitive damages against Andy Ruiz, if anything, but all the belts would be gone. So litigation for them is a lose-lose. But let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.